right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about Dominion Payroll and the events that we're putting on here today. My favorite thing about working for Dominion is how we really try to integrate community partnerships and nonprofit organizations into any events that we're doing. So first and foremost, I'd like to introduce Denny Gallagher. He's the president of our Tampa location, and he's going to talk a little bit about Martinis for Moffat.
All right. Make sure I get. Can everybody hear me okay here? Okay, for everybody in the back. All right. So I'm the world's worst public speaker. So I'm sorry in advance for the next 5 minutes that I'm going to take you guys through a little bit of a really important event that we do in the community here that I'd love to share with you. So for those of you who I do not know, my name is Denny Gallagher, and I'm honored to serve as the chairperson for Martinis for Moffat, an event that has become a cornerstone of our community's efforts to support cancer research and patient care at Moffitt Cancer Center. I'm going to take a few moments to share with you the journey of Martinis for Moffat and its incredible impact over the years. I have the privilege to serve on the board of the Bay Area Advisors. These are the hosts of Martinis for Moffat, which was founded 20 years ago by a dedicated team of professionals committed to making a difference in our community. What started as a small gathering to raise funds and awareness for cancer research has blossomed into one of Tampa's most anticipated annual events. Over the past 18 years, Martinis for Moffat has grown exponentially, both in size and in impact that we have had on with Moffitt Cancer Center. From its humble beginnings, our event has raised over $2.5 million to support the groundbreaking research and innovative treatments that Moffitt is known for. The growth is a testament to the unwavering support from our community, our sponsors, and our volunteers. Every year, we come together not just to enjoy a fantastic evening, but to stand united in our fight against cancer. The funds raised through Martinis for Moffat have directly contributed to numerous advancements in cancer research and patient care. As we look forward to this year's event on July 13th at the Seminole Hard Rock and Casino, I am filled with hope and excitement for what we can achieve together. The continued support of this community in Tampa is not only a beacon of hope for those battling cancer, but also a testament to the strength and compassion of our community. In closing, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each of you for being here today and allowing me to share a few minutes with you on something that I know impacts every person in this room. If you are interested and would like to learn a little bit more about Martinis for Moffat, I'd be happy to speak with you at the conclusion of our program. Thanks again for being here today.
Thank you, Denny. And big thanks just to Denny in general. My name is Ryan Tagg. I'm the sales director in Tampa, and I got kind of a late start in my career switching to sales. I've been with the company about, like I said, 6 years. Started just smiling and dialing, right? Inside sales rep. So I've come a long way since I got started, and that's all because of Denny Gallagher and the Gallaghers and Dominion Payroll, and what they do for the community is just so impressive. I was watching Saved by the Bell last night. So went back in time, and I started to think about how much technology has changed and what a unique perspective everyone in this room has watching that progress over time. I thought about going to Blockbuster when I was a kid, picking out a movie, picking out a video game, renting it for a few days. It's really an incredible experience and really unique to the human perspective. That technology really only existed for 20 or 30 years. That experience only existed for 20 or 30 years. Progress of humanity is getting shorter and shorter over time. You think about Blockbuster from the first one that opened. I think there's actually still one open now, but for all intents and purposes, it's done. And it was such a short period of time, and that progress is remarkable now. We're seeing changes happening over the course of months, not years, not decades. And when you look at, I don't know if y'all get a chance, watch a video of Will Smith eating spaghetti developed by AI. Is it? I'm so happy about that. I'm really excited for the presentation, by the way. But you look at it from a year ago to what it's doing today. We have Sora. We have a number of different AI platforms that are being released that are just remarkable. So when you think about AI's impact, not only on the world, but specifically in the workforce, what are we going to do with our time? Is it going to make our lives easier? Is it going to take our livelihoods away? There are a lot of questions that we don't know the answers to. That can be scary, but it's also exciting. You know, you think about the internet, taking the internet 20, 30 years to fully develop and how that's changed our lives. Next year, we're going to be having a completely different conversation. And I'm so excited to have John and Cords here from Bake More Pies. They're really, at the forefront of this, leading with technology, helping their clients and partners develop new practices that are difficult to understand. And he smiles, right? Because they're difficult, and it's changing so quickly. So I'd just like to bring y'all up here, and I'm really excited for the presentation. John is the Vice President of AI, and then we also have Cords, who's the CEO of Bake More Pies. So thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.
So my name again is Cords Owen, and I'm the CEO of Bake More Pies. And we are a full service, interactive, and advertising and marketing agency. We really approach everything from an efficiency and technology first sort of disposition. And just real quick, a little bit about me. I made my first website in 1996. And this period we're in right now reminds me a lot of the way that people were talking about the internet when it was brand new. And how is it going to change things? And you heard conversations about things like brick and mortar and internet connection speeds and things like that. And we're in one of those moments right now. And I'm real excited about talking to you guys a little bit more about what we're seeing with AI today. And then this is John Toner, our Vice President of AI, and he's in charge of implementing all of those things.
Thank you. Yep, I'm certified by Microsoft and IBM for AI. Expert in customer support bots and AI automations, former leader of gift card and reloadable data analytics at American Express, and also a founder of a product development company called SynergyWiz with multiple patents in the VR, e-mobility, and mobile computing spaces. And I'm basically a resident nerd at Bake More Pies.
Yeah. So here's a quick agenda of what we're going to be talking about today. Some of this stuff is going to feel a bit nerdy, as John was saying, and I would encourage you not to go cross-eyed or any of those sorts of things. Just bear with us because it'll get a lot more practical. We're going to show you some examples. A few months ago, we did this presentation for the CEO Council of Tampa Bay. The presentation's changed quite a lot, but back when we did this presentation, the goal was to take some of this buzz that we were all hearing, but actually demonstrate for executives in a practical way how they could use some of these tools in their businesses. And so we were asked to be here today. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to go through a little bit of the history and overview of like how we got where we are today and what this type of AI is and how it's different. We're going to explain a little bit about how AI works because being someone who thinks a lot like an engineer, I like to know how things work because then I can make inferences about how I might use something, right? Or maybe invent some new way to use it. We're going to go through a lot of models and tools, maybe some you haven't heard of, demonstrate some ways you could use it, and then talk a little bit about the future of AI. And we've left plenty of room at the end. We're going to try to power through this pretty eloquently and quickly so that we have plenty of time for questions at the end because you may have an emotional reaction with some of the stuff that we're going to go over today. There may be some fear, excitement, and we're going to try to answer all those questions. All right. So why are we here? Well, I'm sure you've seen on the news a lot lately with some of the conversations. Sometimes you see headlines that are extremely positive, right? So we're talking about, should you invest in AI? And look at the NVIDIA stock, for example. Look what it's done. And you'll see a little bit later, we're going to show you an example of why NVIDIA has taken off because their chips are especially good with AI processes. And then you also see things that are super scary, like in this headline over here, we're talking about some experts are warning about how AI is going to lead to extinction, right? And you should treat AI as like this new species. And so anyhow, I think one of the things that really helped us understand about where we are in a very macro sense is this continuum right here, and this chart right here is titled the singularity. And if you look back to the beginning of time, of humanity and how we've approached intelligence, and you're talking about like how we've communicated and we told stories and we build upon people that have come before us, and it keeps going on and on and on. And then at this point over here, we started making machine intelligence. AI itself has been a concept for the last, since the 50s. I mean, everybody's seen the Willy Wonka, the original Willy Wonka, where they're asking the machine where the golden tickets are, and the machine is actually acting a lot like the way AI is today, but it's taken an extremely long time to get there. And so we are actually a little bit past the singularity point. In my opinion, the knowledge that these large language models and this new type of AI have, they're generally more intelligent than pretty much each and every one of us, but they still need our help. And I would be willing to bet, and maybe even by a show of hands, how many people have an AI app on their phone right now? Because it's most of the people in the room. Everyone here that raised their hand is now a transhuman. They're an augmented human by AI, and it's made you more intelligent and more productive.
All right, Courts, thank you. I'm going to take over for a minute here, talk about the history of AI and kind of how we got here. So I'm sure you guys have used AIs in the past, or what was called AI back then, Alexa, Siri, those sort of things. That is not at all what this current technology is. Those basically fed off of static models and fixed databases and use natural language processing techniques to understand what you say, convert them to text, and then follow very standard computing if this, then that instructions. And that's very different than the current technology like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, where it basically continually learns from vast data sets. Essentially, the entire internet is what these current large language models have been trained on. And they're self-taught through, whether it's the internet or maybe your own corporate documents, and then it can talk about those documents just like a human would. And it's built on what's called the transformer architecture and utilizes tokens back and forth to generate the responses. All right. Now I'm going to continue to nerd out here for a minute, but of course,
well, I was just going to jump in. This transformer architecture, the human allegory for that is, think about any kind of a situation where you're in where tangents happen, right? So you're on some sort of a topic, but because you're now talking about that topic, 5 other thoughts pop into your head, and you're like, oh, okay, this conversation can go here, here, here. I can think of an example there. Imagine being able to do that billions of times a second, and that's how these models are working. Because if you think of like one keyword, for example, and then all the other related things that are connected to it, and then each of those things are weighted based on the context of that moment. Does that make sense to everybody? Perfect.
Yep, and just give you guys a brief overview so you kind of understand the technology. It was essentially invented in 2017 by Google with a paper called "Attention is All You Need." And then OpenAI took that technology and basically built upon that to build ChatGPT, which was launched to the public in November of 2022. And within 5 days had 1 million users, and by February 2023 had 100 million users. And as you know, it's continued to grow since then. And these large language models, essentially at their core, are just next word prediction engines. So I'm sure past years you guys have used, you type it on Outlook or maybe on your phone, and it tries to predict the next word. It's like that, but literally the best next word prediction engine you can possibly imagine. And what they found is when you build these large language models, train on the entire internet, it's actually an emergent property of understanding our world that has appeared. And that's basically what the intelligence we're now dealing with. So just once again, so you guys can understand technology a little better, creating these large language models takes entire room full of servers, millions, if not billions of dollars to build, months and months of training just to build the model. However, once you have that model built, it can be run at what's called inference time relatively easily. So I could run a large language model even on this laptop with a good GPU. And Apple just had their announcement yesterday with the Apple Intelligence on the iPhones, where they have smaller models actually running on the phone itself. Cord's made a great example. Microsoft Word took years and years and millions of dollars to build, but you can still run it on light computers as well. Back over to you.
This is an example of what I was talking about with NVIDIA and why their chips are really the chips that are designed to power what's going on. So how many people have seen AI generated images, right? Quite a lot of people have played with maybe some of those tools as well. So what it's doing is it starts with an image like this, and then what it does is it tries to deconstruct it in a way that makes sense to the computer. And you can see as you go from left to right here, what's happening is it's adding noise. And so essentially what's happening is it's deconstructing the patterns of this particular image in a way that the computer can see how it might relate to other things. That's why when you feed it one image and you ask for variations of it, it's able to do it because it gets somewhere around this part and then it goes, oh, well, maybe the ears might be a little bit different or they might be pointed over here. And so this is kind of hard to imagine, from the seats that we're in and being humans and all of that. But this is an example of how these computers can take unbelievably huge amounts of data, or maybe things that also are powered by patterns like DNA, for example, and then be able to make sense of it and then come back through and regenerate something. So if you start with a graphic like this and you ask for a variation of it, you can end up with a graphic like this. And so essentially that's what's happening, and it's happening with images, it's happening with videos, it's happening with voice, it's happening with text. And so this is, in a nutshell, how a lot of this stuff is happening. So imagine a pattern prediction engine that is extremely good.
All right. Now we're going to quickly go through some of the large language models and various tools that you guys have at your disposal at this moment. So the most popular large language models out there at the moment and the most powerful ones are OpenAI's GPT-4o, and O stands for Omni. So that doesn't just do large language model. It also does images, audio, and video in the near future. Google Gemini Ultra, Anthropic's Claude Opus, and then there's open source models as well that anyone can download for free and run and build upon, and even jailbreak, which is a little bit scary. And that's Meta's Llama 3 and Mistral's 8x7b. There's tons of other models out there, but these are just the most popular ones. And when looking at these models, there's three basic metrics you can look at. There's the quality of the response. So, is it factually accurate? How creative is the response? And then there's the token limit. So that's how much you can actually input into the large language model and how much you can actually get out of the large language model. So when ChatGPT 3.5 first released, I think it was like 4,000 tokens. And you can imagine a token is about 75% of a word. So that'd be like 3,000 words. The latest version of ChatGPT 4o now has 128,000 token input you can do. So, talking just under 100,000 words there. And if you look at the other models, like Gemini's Ultra, you have up to 1 million tokens input. And they're talking about doubling that here soon to 2 million, and they see a path forward to 10 million. So that's just what you can input into the model before you get a response back. So you can imagine all of your documents, all the massive data sets you can input and get factual responses back.
What John's talking about here are the prompts themselves. So for all of these tools out here, these AI tools, what we're looking at is the interface is typically a box of some kind that you interact with. You either type text into it, you click the little microphone, and you're able to put a prompt into this box. And depending on how well you're able to construct your request to this model, you'll get different levels of quality of results. And some of these tools allow you to upload Excel documents, show screenshots of reporting. We're going to show you some examples of that later. But what I think is really important here is think about computer science and people who've been able to make computers do things. They've had to know a programming language up into this point. The new programming language is just language, essentially, with how you interact with these tools. It's just good old-fashioned English or whatever language you prefer to communicate in. And these tools can actually respond back or use those instructions because they understand the differences between two different words and can create logic out of them. you can actually ask it to show their work, and it'll literally show you like the Perl scripting or what language it's actually, the computer language is actually being written and the code that's actually being written at the time. And what I think is really fascinating about it is think about like the movie Minions, for example, Despicable Me. Well, those little minions, they have their own little language, right? And there's no manual out there that can that explains like their language. But like if you listen to it, you'll see like, wow, I think he just said something in French, or he seems to talk about bananas a lot. And the latest ChatGPT Omni, it's multimodal, which means it's been trained on all the text, as many images, as many videos, as many things. So you can literally ask your app to talk in manganese, is what they call it. And because it's just a language and a pattern set that makes sense to it, it'll actually spit out a result. And I'm just going to give you a quick, at the risk of live demo here, with only one bar, I'm going to give this a go. So somebody give me like a Mother Goose parable. Somebody spit one out. Okay, perfect. We're going to do that one. So, tell the story of Humpty Dumpty, but do it in Minionese.
Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. Here's a little summary in Minionese. Humpty Dumpty sat on wallow. Humpty Dumpty had a big follow. All king's horsies and all king's menses couldn't put Humpty together again. For the full story or more details, you can check out resources on Nursery Rhymes websites.
So that wasn't the greatest example because they didn't use a lot of Minionese.
There was no banana mentioned.
But it is hilarious. Like if you ask it to write like its own example of like the Iliad or Odyssey or something in less than 200 words, it'll throw bananas in there. It does all the things that like Minions do, but there's no instruction. Nobody ever trained it on how to speak in Minionese. But as an example, just wanted to share that one with you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Courts. But just a quick recap here. For quality of responses, ChatGPT 4.0 or Claude Opus is what you're going to go with. Claude Opus slightly better for creative writing. ChatGPT 4 slightly better for factual responses. Llama 3 about 90% as good as ChatGPT 4. So and it's all open source. If you have the power to run it, it is a great option. Just if you want the cheapest option, the Walmart, if you will, of large language models, Google's Gemini is by far the cheapest. And as explained earlier, it has the highest token limit. So you can put massive amounts of data in and get massive amounts of data out for a relatively cheap price.
That's the one that famously told people to put glue on their pizza, like in the last couple of weeks. So that is a very big concern, is about the accuracy and the way that these metrics are, how they come up with these metrics is something called benchmarking. So in your businesses, if you're trying to make a determination about which one of these tools you might want to use for your particular business, whether it's scientific, very human interaction based, math based, whatever, you can look up the benchmarks and see which large language models actually score better for what you are looking to do. And you might come up with some sort of an application or a mix of them where you use one language model for certain types of things and another one for another. So anyhow, that's how you research those benchmarks.
Ready, Courts? The image generation slide.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, as I mentioned, I have a marketing and advertising agency, and and we've been using AI image generation quite a lot. And one of the things that is really, really good at is quickly putting together concepts on paper. I remember a few months ago we had a collection company come to us, and they wanted a concept for that would be more of a branding thing. And so what we did is we keyed in on the anxiety people have when they receive a bill in the mail. And I was like, man, it's like a mail monster. And I was like, this is super cool. Like, let's just ask AI to generate what a mail monster would look at. And so it took a spin, and I was like, okay, well, a mail monster has to be made of envelopes, and they have to be those scary colors of green and yellow and things that are going to be really attention getting. And we were quickly able to put together a deck to be able to show our prospective client at that moment, like, here's one concept we could take it, and one direction we could take it. And these tools are really, really powerful for helping to put together things. One thing that they're famously bad at is spelling, as you can see here. But there are some really, really good options. Like even within certain applications like Adobe, you can, like Photoshop, for example, you can highlight certain areas and say, hey, I want to take this picture of a room, but I want a plant in this corner. And it'll understand the lighting and everything else. And you could even specify what type of plant and things like that. And so for productivity reasons, when it comes to images, it is extremely powerful. And these are the most popular ones. So OpenAI, DALL-E, Adobe Firefly. There's also one called Midjourney we use quite a lot. And then now this one, Stable Diffusion, is quite good. And Stable Diffusion is significant because, again, it can be run on a local computer. So we were talking about the trillions of data points that come together that allow them to create these giant models. What's really freaky is that once these applications have been created, they'll fit on a thumb drive. It's crazy to know that like all of the world's, practically all of the world's information might be like 10 gigabytes or something, the way that they've got it stored with their vector databases. So it's quite shocking how it works. But these are some tools we'd recommend for image generation.
All right, and then for audio generation, it's kind of broken into two separate categories. So we have voice, where the AI can talk and sound just like you or I, and then music. And so we have a couple samples here. This particular sample was generated with 11 labs, but there's also some good tools out there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dominion Payroll Lunch and Learn, Navigating the Future, AI's impact on the modern workplace. I'm your friendly AI assistant, here to guide you through the future of work. Don't worry, I'm not here to take your jobs, just to make them easier.
I don't trust her. And OpenAI is about to release their voice API. A couple weeks ago, they said they're going to release it in a couple weeks. And that's going to absolutely kill the market. I mean, what they've shown in their demos is amazing. And it's supposed to be released literally any day now. For music, there's two good options out there. There's Suno and Udio. This particular example we made here was created in Suno. I'm not going to play the whole song, but just give you guys an idea of how good AI music sounds at the moment.
Welcome everyone to the Dominion Show. We're here to learn and laugh and grow, navigating the future with AI so bright, impacting the workplace, making it right. Dominion Payroll Lunch and Learn, navigating the future is gonna be fun. AI's impact on the modern workplace. Join us for the welcome find Joe.
All right, so give you guys an idea of the quality there.
Yeah, so in that example, it composed the music, the beats, the lyrics. It actually, did the vocals themselves. So I actually, I'm also an entrepreneur. I have 4 businesses that I'm involved in. One of them was an online trading academy, and I'm using was because it was the Voice Acting Institute. And so it was an online place where people can go learn to use their voice to be great voice actors and take classes. And so now I'm looking at that and I'm going, wow, that's going to really struggle in this new environment when you don't need to hire a voice actor to get some great voice inflection and some great communicative type voice for any of your marketing materials. But I'm also invested in a building materials company and an apparel company because I'm diversifying in places that I don't expect people to stop building things. And hopefully people continue to wear clothes. So anyhow, so there's that is the kind of the way that I'm looking at things as I'm trying to hedge with where we're all headed.
All right, of course, I get this slide.
Yeah, so this video was mentioned a little while ago. So this was an example from a year ago where one of the video, in this case, Model Scope, was asked to show a picture of somebody that there's plenty of imagery out there online of Will Smith. And you can see, everybody here can tell that that's Will Smith, but there's definitely something wrong with them.
Love spaghetti.
And he's eating spaghetti. And now, just this last week, this is a model called Kling, which happens to only be available to people with Chinese phone numbers right now because there is an AI arms race, and they're U.S. models are limiting their distribution worldwide, and so are Chinese models. And I mean, you can tell. I mean, that practically, I can't hardly see anything wrong with this video at a glance. I don't know if you guys can, but it looks extremely, extremely real. And so there will be, and I think even some of the film festivals already are showing, they have categories for totally AI generated videos. And I think one of them, South by Southwest, very famously did this, tried to do this, and it didn't go over well because a lot of people felt threatened by the genre itself. And there's a couple more that are trying to launch those pieces. But at the end of the day, storytelling and those types of things, it's not just about these tools and what they can do. It's about like the skill that's applied to them. So
I do want to say that OpenAI, the Chinese aren't necessarily ahead of us with video generation. OpenAI has a model called Sora that is just as good, if not better than Kling, but they have not released to the public yet, probably for obvious fears. But yeah, that we do have models out there that are competitive. Then move on to how to use AI. All right, so how do you actually leverage these tools in your day-to-day? So some general prompting advice. So as we're explaining, prompting is essentially when you type something into ChatGPT, that's called the prompt.
Well, first of all, the way you typically access these tools is like, for example, we've said Claude, we've said OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. Anytime, if you want to work with any of these tools, you can go to the website first. So Google it, go to the website, and it'll give you instructions on how to get to the place, whether it's free or you have to pay money. Most of the time, these tools are $20 a month or less. I personally, I'm spending about $150 to $200 a month on a suite of different tools that help me do things like take meeting notes, Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, Midjourney for image creation. Like, I personally am investing around $200 a month just for my own personal productivity to help me do my job better. But start with the websites or apps, and then that's how you can get to the place where you start giving the prompts.
Yep. And so when you are giving that prompt, you want to make sure you provide context. So let them know if you're trying to do a creative writing project for school, tell it that. If you're trying to create a business report for XYZ presentation, tell it that. Define clear objectives. What are you actually trying to get out of it? Make sure you define that. It's almost like how you want to clearly talk to a person. Ensure you're very clear and precise. Include examples. So in the AI industry, there's actually a thing called shot prompting. And that's how many examples you are giving the AI before you're getting a response back. So if you want something very specific, make sure you provide examples of what you're looking to get back. State any constraints or preferences. And when you're going back and forth, you don't necessarily have to get it right the first time. You can go to the AI, it'll give you something back, and then see what's working, what's not, and just test and iterate. So don't be scared to just keep trying new things. And as Cord explained earlier, natural language is really the new programming language, both figuratively and literally. So you can tell it to spit out some Python code as an example, or you can give it custom instructions with a custom GPT we'll talk about later. That the AI will then follow to actually do programmatic things. And these are a couple things that you guys can actually just copy and paste directly at the end of your prompt to supercharge your prompt. So examples here are, please research before you answer. This is very important, especially with ChatGPT, because it likes to be lazy. If you're asking it for information, a lot of times it'll just go and search its internal database as opposed to going and searching the internet. And this will make sure it searches the internet before it responds to you. Tell it to be a cautious reasoner when responding. So I've heard that used by the OpenAI team when talking about the AIs. So I toss it in there to make sure it's thinking about its response before giving me an answer. Tell it to think through your answers step by step and tell it to double check its work. So most of the stuff is to alleviate hallucinations. So I'm sure you guys have heard that term before. It's when an AI is responding, it's very confident in its response that it's accurate, but it is totally wrong. And that does happen. So you have to be careful about it, and you have to minimize that as much as possible. And part of that also is, if you don't know the answer, please tell me you don't know. And so it doesn't just try to make up an answer, because it's going to try and follow your instructions the best it can. So it's going to try and give you a response unless you tell it that to tell me, not to tell you. And then also, to solve this problem, use tree of thought reasoning. So that's a certain process that humans can follow, but also AIs can follow to try to get to the most factual answer possible.
And you can find out about what tree of thought reasoning is. There's a lot of YouTube videos on it. You can do some research online, or even ask a large language model like how to do tree of thought. But it's the progressive deconstructing of an answer where you start broad and then you go, okay, there's 4 parts to this. Well, let's talk about part 1, and then you take part 1 to its logical conclusion, part 2, part 3, part 4, and then you say, based on where we're at in each of those parts, create a summary. And so that's how you do tree of thought.
If you guys just nothing else out of this presentation, you add this to the end of your prompts, I think this will be time well spent. All right, so now we're going to go into GPTs and assistants. So this is all on the OpenAI platform. They currently have the best large language models. So that's, this is the best tools to use out there at the moment. So what these are is essentially personalized AI agents. So they're still built on the same basic large language models, in this case, GPT-4o, but they have custom instructions, custom data sets, and tools that the agent can access to interact with the outside world. And there's actually an app store on the OpenAI website where you can go and search for custom GPTs to do anything you might want. There's ones for creative writing. There's ones that are better at math than the standard model. You can really go in there and explore all different.
Like shopping for travel, even like Expedia has a GPT. If you need help booking your trip and doing cool things, you can do it through that.
And right now it's free to use for anybody. So you can go there and use any of these GPTs for 100% free. If you want to create your own GPTs, it's just $20 a month. And then you put them on the website and you can have them be private, so only you can access it, or you can make them public so anybody can access it. And some popular business use cases, obviously customer support bot that doesn't cost you anything and has any of the customer support information that you want to upload to it. A marketing copy generator, you can upload all of your past marketing copy and it can generate new marketing copy that's similar. Automated data analysis and reporting, so you can upload some of your actual data sets or screenshots of your current dashboards, and it can analyze those and provide feedback. You can upload all your compliance documentation and then upload some of your files to see if they actually are compliant or not. And or you can download all of your feedback you've gotten and have it analyze sentiment. And all this is $20 a month to create and absolutely free to use. Moving on to the OpenAI Assistant API, it's basically GPTs but white labeled. So you can basically have the same functionality you have a GPT, but have it be under your brand, and it can be called via functions with APIs. So you don't actually have to go into the OpenAI website. For GPTs, you actually have to go to chatgpt.com/GPTs to access it. But with OpenAI APIs, assistant APIs, you can have it, people can be on your website and asking questions, and it can look like it's just your product and have nothing to do with OpenAI. And it's using obviously the world's most advanced AI models. All of your data is kept private and is SOC 2 compliant. And it literally costs, even for the best model out there, costs pennies per response or action. And it can leverage tools out there, so you can have it updating calendars, you can have it sending data back and forth between your CRM. Really, the use cases are limitless here, and it's a fantastic tool.
Yeah, so think about your own business and think about how policies, governance, user manuals, all of those sorts of things are organized already. Like if you have certain compliance, whether it's like ISO 9000 or whatever type compliance, you may have to have this type of documentation already, or data organization within your business. And so by having some of that structure already in place, I would encourage you to experiment with creating some of this on your own, whether it's like, hey, here's our company handbook, like just upload the company handbook and then ask some questions about what things are possible with the dress code at your company and see if it can answer accurately. Those are good examples. And then depending on how robust the data is that you can give the model or see the model with, it can give you a lot better answers or more complicated analysis.
Yeah, and the use cases are similar to GPTs, but once again, it's on your platform. Something that it can do that the GPTs can't: process automation. So you're thinking like data entry or other boring tasks, it can handle those. Personalized marketing, so having the AI actually reach out and talk to your prospects and provide any information that's required. It can basically any kind of external applications. These are perfect for. All right, Cord, over to you for the humanizer slide?
Sure. So famously, a lot of colleges are struggling with AI right now. ChatGPT is doing most of the collegiate work, and other large language models, and uh, even on our own personal inboxes, we can tell. I'm sure we're all getting spammed with all of these really, really well written emails, but you can pretty much pick them out right away. It's like this person doesn't know me, and they're trying to be funny and then sell me something or get them to call or watch a presentation or something. And so there is like a type of, there is a sort of a pattern that we can still recognize as a result from somebody's written this with ChatGPT, right? Well, of course, now they've come out with humanizers. So there are agents and GPTs that basically can take language that might read like an encyclopedia entry or something you would suspect being generated by a GPT, and now it turns it into something that's a lot more like the way a human would speak, and it's very, very difficult to detect. And so in this particular case, you can see a before and after. So I'll just read it to you in case it helps. Somebody can't see it, but it's the before is LLM-based AI or large language model-based AI utilities, vast data sets, and advanced algorithms to understand, generate, and interact with human language in a highly sophisticated manner. That's the typical large language model response, but the more humanistic response would be LLM-based AI stands for large language model-based AI, employing large data sets and complex algorithms to ensure the deep learning, generation, interaction of human language at very high levels. The second one is the way all of us would say it. The first one, you can tell it's very suspect. And so the reason you would want to use a humanizer is because, I can tell you my own personal experience is when I get those spam emails and things, it's offensive to me. Like, you don't even care enough. You act like you know me. You don't even care enough to write me a real email. I'm not calling you back, right? But when you incorporate humanizers and things, let's say it is a little agent that you use within your business to help people understand or ask questions about your company handbook, right? Well, if you're humanizing the response, it might be a little bit more personal than it is, it's a little sterile when it comes back with a more, AI response, right? So it is important to try to layer in those things or at least be aware of it, right? Because we're all human, and that's a big part of where we're going, and we'll talk about it in just a minute. But there is a some fear and some acceptance and things like that is you need to be thinking about before you just blindly implement one of these tools.
All right, and now I'm going to talk about one of my favorite AI tools out there right now. I use this more than ChatGPT these days. It's called Perplexity. Can I get a raise of hands of people that use Perplexity right now? Wow. Okay, that's amazing. I'm excited for you guys that haven't used it yet. It's essentially an AI Google replacement. So you ask it a question like you would Google. It then understands your question, comes back with clarifying questions if it doesn't fully understand it. Then it goes, searches the internet for up to 20 websites at a time, and then summarizes the results for you. It's amazing. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. And they just released a new feature about a week ago called Pages, where it'll essentially build out a Wikipedia article for you, a Wikipedia page for you automatically for any kind of question you have or anything you want to know about. So you can very quickly, within a couple of minutes, become an expert on literally any topic, and it will search the entire internet. Now, there's a free basic version. So what I just described it there, it does that for free. And there's a phone app you can have, or you can just go on the website. And there's a pro version for just $20 a month. Seems to be what everyone's charging. And that allows you to define the source. So you can have it only search YouTube, only search Reddit, or only search academic papers, depending on what you're searching for. For instance, if I was searching for medical advice, I probably wouldn't want to just only go to Reddit. But but yeah, so, and then on top of that, once it searches the 20 different websites, you can then define the model that you want to have summarize it. So by default, Perplexity has its own AI model. It's perfectly fine. It's good. Or if you pay $20 a month, you can have the latest model from OpenAI or Anthropic, like Claude Opus, go and summarize it for you as well. So fantastic tool. Can't say enough about it. Go check it out. It's free. And we almost didn't include this slide because frankly, Copilot, if you, I don't know if you guys have used it yet, but it kind of still feels like it's in the beta phase. Microsoft is basically using the word Copilot for anything related to AI in Office or Windows. And so there's Copilot for all the different Word product or all different Microsoft Office products, and there's Copilot that's integrated into Windows in a lot of different aspects. And for the most part, right now, it's basically just saving you time from having to go to ChatGPT, copy and paste back and forth, especially for Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. For Excel, you can do some things like highlight, data sets and have it do some summaries and that sort of items. And then for Outlook and Teams, it does have some features where it can go and summarize meetings for you and do things like that. We actually use a separate meeting summary tool called Read AI, which I recommend you guys try out as well, that to summarize meetings and basically invites a separate person into the meeting, and then that person or AI person goes in and does summaries.
Yeah, I was just going to say the main benefit right now with Copilot is that a few months ago they announced that they are going to indemnify anybody that uses it to produce a result or response. So where a lot of the other models, hey, it's like you can use it, it's the Wild West, hope nobody gets hurt, hope you don't get sued. But with Copilot, if you're using it, they're basically indemnifying you. There's an insurance policy that goes along with it. And that's one of the major topics about using any of these tools is like, who's responsible and accountable in case there's damages? And Copilot right now does include that. So that is one benefit of Copilot, even though it's not as great.
And there have been some controversial features with Windows Copilot Plus PCs. I don't know if you guys have heard about this yet, but they're building an AI recall feature in there where it takes a screenshot every couple seconds of your screen and then records that, supposedly staying all local. I don't know, but then later on, let's say weeks later, you can say, hey, I was working on XYZ back in the day. Can you pull up what that was or what I said? And it'll be able to remember everything you've done on your PC for months at a time.
Yeah, it's like essentially a keylogger for your computer that allows you to go back in time. But it was, I think, and all these updates happen so fast, but in the last few days, I think some of the beta versions that somebody already was able to hack it and be able to do the recall, there was a major backlash. And that's when they came out and said, okay, we're disabling it by default. So you have to opt into it, and we're keeping it all local. So it's all this stuff is moving so incredibly fast. I mean, there was just in preparation for this presentation, we were expecting Apple to make a major announcement any day now, and it's like it happened yesterday. So this stuff is happening so incredibly fast that it's mind-boggling to try to even keep up with. Yeah, so here's a great example. We have this is not our dashboard, but it is a very similar to a dashboard we use for all of our clients in our marketing agency and our advertising agency, because we're trying to be very transparent about performance of campaigns. Or this could be any of your KPIs. This could be something that has to do with human resources. Could be payroll. Could be any of your initiatives. But typically, a lot of times these types of dashboards, your junior level employees, I mean, they're built really well. They can understand it and they can grasp like, okay, what should I do with this information? Well, with what John was talking about earlier with agents and custom GPTs and things like that, you can actually come in and tell these large language models, hey, I want you to look at this chart. Like I am this type of a company and I am, approach it from this chair. Like I want to look at it as if I'm the CFO or I'm the director of HR or I am, the CEO or whatever. And I want you to look at this chart and tell me what's important to me, right? And you could even explain like what industry you're in and to consider annual trends. And so it can spit back things like this. So this slide has got a lot of information on it, but we didn't take the information out because this is literally what we did. We took that screenshot and we said, hey, take a look at this dashboard. Tell me what's really important here. And within seconds, it was able to spit back this information. And really, as an executive or a decision maker, I'm sure like all of you are in your companies, you're looking for the insights. You're looking for like, what should I care about on this page? Like, I don't want to start from scratch every time. Like when somebody brings something to you, help me understand my options. What am I looking at? Why is this important in the context? And the tool can do it for you. It's incredibly powerful. And the next slide shows a little bit more of insights. He's on it right now. But it can even make recommendations like, okay, take the information. What should I care about? Okay, and now give me some recommendations about what I should do next, given this information.
Yep, and you can set that up to be totally automated using the Assistance API, where you can have your reports sent on a regular basis to the AI, and then you can have it only email you back when there's something important or something actionable. And so basically a data analyst on command working 24/7 for pennies an hour. All right, so it's already 12:40, so I'm going to try and go through this relatively quickly. So I'll go through some of the next level business automations that are now currently available. So automated content creation, I think you guys have probably already played around with that a bit. We're generating copy, generating images, having automated sentiment analysis where the AI can go out and look at your Facebook replies, look at your reviews on different platforms, and come back and see what customers are liking, what customers are not liking, all automated. Lead generation and nurturing, so having the AI actually communicate with prospects and answer any questions they might have automatically. Human resources can use AI with employee onboarding. So imagine right now you have an HR representative that has to kind of hold the hand of the new employees to walk them through how to do how the company operates. AI can be there to answer any questions and save that HR person a lot of time. Resume ranking, so it can sift through hundreds of resumes at once, finding the most qualified candidates that match what the job application was for. Doing performance management, so understanding what employees are doing well, not doing well, who needs some extra help. Operations, so process automation, so like I was talking before, data entry and those sort of boring positions where you have to look at a piece of paper, find the important bits, then copy that into another area. AI can do that extremely fast, extremely cost effectively. Compliance and reporting, so earlier I talked about as well, looking at compliance documentation and predictive analysis. AI has been able to do that for a very long time, and this is something it's extremely competent in. For customer support, we found our clients have a lot of value with this, where you upload all of the user manuals, documentation, past help desk tickets, and the AI can intake all of that, and then when users have similar questions, be able to quickly solve the problems, as well as the ticket triage and routing and knowledge-based management. So let's say the help desk team solves an issue, then you just enter that into the AI, and now the AI can answer that same question again. And for R&D, obviously great for idea generation, whiteboarding, automated the documentation. So if you guys are having meetings and you can, after the meeting, can quickly summarize the key points and the key takeaways and the next steps, and assist with project management. Future of AI. All right, Cords, over to you.
Yeah, so pretty much we really don't have a choice. Like, we're all going to be living in an AI augmented world. And so what are the things that we can do? There's this new term that's being thrown around right now called digital resilience, right? So what are you doing personally, and what are you doing as an organization to be resilient during this time where we're going to be completely bombarded with digital enablement within our lives and our business? And so here's some recommendations. So one of them is what we're doing all right now. You've got Dominion Payroll, right? There's a lot of commoditization in certain industries. Payroll is one of them, I mean, to be perfectly honest, but they care enough about their clients to have this type of a community event, right? For what they're doing for Moffitt. So take the things that humans are good at and do more of them, right? So understand the power of relationships, and so be very good about that. Take a look at how AI is being implemented in your industry and start thinking about how you might utilize some of those tools because your competitors are, right? Develop a data strategy. If you're an organization that makes really good use of your CRM, really good use of note-taking, logs, calls, like think about your data infrastructure. The better your data infrastructure is, the cleaner your data, the more organized it is, the more opportunity you're going to have to enable these types of tools. A lot of what we talked about today, some of it is very surface level stuff that we can all access right now. Some of it requires some integration, right? You might have an AI model over here that's been trained on your business, and you have to get your data and you have to talk and build all that plumbing in a digital sense. You have to host it somewhere. You have to build the ability to talk to it. depending on the strategy, those are the types of things. So like John was just saying, in a general sense, and a lot of this stuff, as far as the following bullet points here, if you think about like, hey, imagine I go back to my office today or to my desk and I think about if I had a bot within my company, and think of a helpful bot. If I had a helpful bot that could understand my business, like my business, with my value propositions, the way I do things, right? What are the places, what are the things I would need? What is the data that I need exposed to, in order for that bot to be able to do its job to help give me a jetpack, so to speak, to be even cooler and better at what I do? And so very, very big on the humanistic type elements of understanding the power of relationships, because at the end of the day, you're some if you don't use Dominions, like some payroll company might not be able to help you with your HR question, but Dominion might, because they're so helpful and their people are so nice and responsive and everything else, right? The idea of like really understanding the power of relationships is incredibly important, because at the end of the day, people are going to be solving your problems, not AI. And so again, you've got this massive spectrum here. Like for example, I was just watching a TED Talk the other day where they were talking about genetics, and he was talking about it. This gentleman was talking about it in the context of, what's the name of the company? Grey Goo. Yeah. So he's talking about in the context of antibiotics. So like I was saying earlier in the presentation, DNA is all about that, RNA and the patterns of like those different molecules and the proteins and everything else and how they all come together. And it might be able to, based off of like that protein and that enzyme or that molecule and how it attaches to a virus. And it might be able to be a better antibiotic. So they took the top 50 antibiotics and they ran it through their technology. And they've been doing this over the last 5 years as this technology has been evolving. And for all top 50 antibiotics that we all use today, they were able to genetically model on a DNA basis better antibiotics than we have today, right? So that's really super positive, right? Really good medicine. Well, the exact same technology could create bioweapons. So the spectrum is just vast of what could happen. And my personal disposition is 2 years ago, when I first saw this new type of generative AI, large language models, and I viewed it under the context of what I do every day in marketing and advertising and technology, I was like, oh my God, this is really going to be impactful, and it's really going to affect my business. I mean, even Sam Altman even came out that said like 90% of marketing tasks can be done by AI in 3 years, or something like that, right? And so I was terrified, right? And so what was my response to that? Well, instead of sticking my head in the dirt, I immediately started building a department that specialized in AI, because if it's going to be here, I'm going to be the best I possibly can at it. And I'm going to continue to be a solution for my partners and clients and help them solve these problems. So what's coming? You should expect that, just like I was able to talk to ChatGPT earlier and it was able to talk back to me in a very human way, think about applications. You're going to be talking to a lot of applications, and it's going to not be a waste of your time. Like, think about how many terrible Siri experiences you've had over the years, right? It's like, oh my God, like I'm just going to type it. It's terrible, right? So we're going to get a lot of voice applications. You're going to be able to see video on demand that you can't tell. You're going to be able to like have like a Chrome plugin or something that's able to do things that you would normally do with a browser. It's going to be able to navigate your computer just like you would, basically. And there's something coming called artificial general intelligence, where the models are actually learning on the fly. So that training that we were talking about, that takes gigantic data centers and incredible amounts of processing and billions of dollars. A lot of the tools are already trying to figure it out now. And even on the homepage of OpenAI, they have the word AGI. And think, of AI that's going to continually be learning and also figuring out what it doesn't know, and then go learn that, right? And become an expert at all things. So that's what's coming. And now we can take some questions. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'll start off. Do you have any information, since we were talking about licenses and liability?
Yes.
Sort of thing, do you have any insight into whether those models do or do not require you to, I guess, give up access to your data. Are they learning off what you put in it? Is part of the value you're getting from Google because they're going to use your inputs?
Yeah, so I would start, so if I was trying to determine which model I was going to use, I would start with the best model for what I wanted to do. I would look at the benchmarks and I would look at the models. And then I would also look at where my data is coming from and where it's going, right? So there's a lot of cloud-based things out there like Snowflake and Google BigQuery and some other places that you can put your data in order to give it access, these large language models access. Obviously, you can read the terms and conditions, but you can also like use common sense. I mean, ChatGPT says that they're not training their model based off the queries, but like you can just see the last couple of days, like Elon doesn't believe them, right? And like, can you even trust them? I would check the terms and conditions. I know even like European Union and Artificial Intelligence Act that's being worked on right now and it's about to come through. It addresses 4 key areas. So there's like transparency, there's accountability, there's prohibitive behaviors, and then there's like compliance. So I would say, you know, obviously you can work with an integrator or somebody who's an expert in AI about the considerations, or you can do some of your own research. And I personally am always a skeptic. You know, I'm always taking a more conservative disposition practically on everything. But does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
All those are just grave concerns from
Yeah.
where I sit as well.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think you should adopt it, but I am concerned about it, and so I just wanted to know based on your own research and all that you've done here, if you had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the,
like
Microsoft Azure API and the OpenAI Assistant API, they obviously say they do not use your data for training. So if you're going to be using those platforms, the GPTs, I believe those do. So you be a little more cautious with those. But when you're using the APIs, they say they do not use it for training.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I know obviously you're using a lot of your ideas when you use those tools. My question is, how is copyright law? How does that play a role regarding AI?
It's the Wild West right now. I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry. So the question is how is copyright law? I mean, if we've already discussed that these models are crawling the whole web, and like maybe they're crawled your website and use some of your data to help train their model, right? So like that's your copyrighted information. How can they get to use it? We've seen it show up in certain responses. Like if you use one of these tools, it may say, "Oh, I found this information on this website. Here's a link to the website." They're trying to get around some of that copyright stuff there, or they may not even know. Like that Google Gemini example of the glue on pizza, that was a really sarcastic, I think, Reddit post from like years ago that where it got that information from, and it didn't share that that's where it got the information from. We're in the Wild West right now. I would suspect we're going to see a lot of very big things come through. Even the latest, the voice-to-voice examples,
ScarJo.
it sounds like Scarlett Johansson, right? And they say, "Oh, it really wasn't her," but I bet you they found the, impersonators. You know, those are the actresses that train that voice. So, it is, it's Wild West, and we're going to see a lot of governance over that, I'm sure. Yes, sir.
Are there any place here in Tampa that as an executive you can go and take some classes just to see how do I implement it as an executive? Not into my company or anything like that, but I looked at Copilot, I gave it like 2 hours and I was like frustrated, I'm like never mind, I'll get there when I get there, but I'm 50 something, I'm getting to that stage, it's like, oh, that's too complicated and I stopped learning. But as an executive, I would be interested in.
Yeah. So the question is there a place that you can go to take classes on some of this to actually get your hands dirty and be able to implement and learn some of these things? So that is a very real thing. Like right now, I'm serving on a caucus in the chamber. I was asked to be in there, and then they said, "Hey, Cords, could you lead the subcommittee on education?" And so we're working with the local colleges, and St. Leo, for example, has asked us to help them put together a class to do that exact same thing, because basically it doesn't really exist. I was talking to a lot of you, anyhow, a friend of mine named Brian, and he was telling his daughter, who goes to a college, I think in Jacksonville, and he was like, "Hey, you got to take as many AI classes as you can." And she goes, "Dad, they don't even exist." Like this stuff is moving faster than curriculum in the way that curriculum has been developed in the past. And so I would,
From an executive perspective.
I understand. Yeah, from an executive perspective, you have to be an extremely curious person. Like in general, I would practice being curious. I would practice asking questions. I would practice doing your own research. This tool Perplexity is really, really good. Ask the large language models as an executive, like what skills you should have. That's a great place to start. You know, we're an integrator. Like if people have problems, like you can come to Bake More Pies and we can help start to attack and understand like in your opportunities and your threats. So another place, yes, sir, Tony.
Just to kind of pick up on that, where do you see the evolution of consulting in AI? So as a business owner, we don't do our own legal work, we don't do our own accounting work. So I can envision where you would have professional services specifically around AI and how you would best use those for your particular business. To your last answer, there doesn't seem to be a lot of that out there, but how is that progressing in your mind, and when will we get to that point where we can hire somebody who's our AI consultant, much like we do our attorney?
So the question is what talent exists out there for integrators, or is this an emerging market? Is there going to be demand, or is there access, or these resources available? And so I'm betting on it. I'm betting on that everyone here is going to need AI in their business one way or another, or a successful strategy. And I think that a lot of the information is going to be available even through the tools themselves about different approaches. They're all biased, and you also don't know whether or not they're good. I think that there isn't a business opportunity there for consulting in that arena. I know that there's at least one person in this room who has a company that does that, because I was looking at the name tags earlier. I think that you will need to do like almost like you get an annual checkup. I think everybody here, I would encourage you to get a checkup and find out if there's an opportunity to use AI. Maybe there's some low-hanging fruit to use AI in your business successfully for productivity or profitability or any of those things. Like I said, I'm betting on it. I mean, we're in the middle of a huge inflection point in human history and industry, and it's going to be everywhere. So getting good advice is going to be pretty important, Denny. Well, one of the main benefits of these tools is it's really, really good as a personal tutor. I was even going on vacation last week with my son, and he was telling me he was taking Calculus 3. I was like, man, it's been a long time since I took that, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't any good at it. But let's ask ChatGPT what's in it. And I was trying to demonstrate for him that, like, hey, you don't have to get stuck on a problem. You can power through it, right? I think we're going to see, one of the most disruptable industries is secondary education, colleges. There it is. It's massively going to be disrupted. I even talking to my son the last couple of years. He's just graduated from Plant High School. I was like, son, you don't have to go to college if you don't want to. Like, I could care less where you learn the skill as long as you can do the skill as a business owner, personally, and can you be a good teammate, right? I know that until the robots get here, blue collar jobs are going to be, not very impacted at all, right? And
The robots are coming though.
yeah, they are coming. Yeah, they are coming. Yeah, you still have to fix the robots. So literally, that is what I told my son. Is I said, one thing is for sure, son. If you're going down an engineering track, make sure you pick a track where you're going into robotic process automation, where you're looking at designing these robots, designing these drones, designing these things. Like, you're guaranteed to have no problem finding work as long as you go down that track.
And I think there's value in learning the tools. So, for instance, calculus, knowing how to prompt an AI to get the proper calculus response and practicing.
Or knowing what calculus is even good for in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Having a bigger picture view and being able to leverage these AI tools to their maximum ability is what's going to, separate the successful from the unsuccessful in the near future.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What are the implications of nefarious characters getting on top of this, and if there's something at an organizational perspective that we can do to safeguard ourselves, whether through educating our current employees, et cetera, are there any low-hanging fruit, as you said, that we can better prepare for when risk and cyber activity happens to us?
Well, I think the idea of thinking about your business and thinking about how you're going to be integrating, the good side of it within your business is a good first step. I mean, this is an absolutely a threat. I mean, if you think about, so there's a tool out there, and it's not in one of our slides, but it's called LM Studio, Language Model Studio. It's a free software. Pretty sure it's not spyware, but it's free software, and you can load into this software. It has a little marketplace of all these open source LLMs, and you can click and you can download the model, like Llama 3, which we just talked about, which is Facebook's open source model they spent billions of dollars generating. It's about a 7 gigabyte download. And you can be running a tool that's better than ChatGPT 3.5, almost as good as GPT-4 within minutes on your own local computer, completely disconnected from the internet, and be getting really, really good responses.
And it's unrestricted.
And it's unrestricted, and you can, really smart, nefarious nerd types can jailbreak it. So like if you can imagine like all the safety that comes along with some of these hosted versions, this technology already exists in a completely siloed environment outside of your data structure or your input or whatever, to where people can use these tools in a local complete.
It's an arms race. So
It's an arms race. Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna have to keep up, and if you don't keep up, then the other side's gonna win. It's just that simple.
Yeah. So sorry, I don't want to be negative here. I mean, there is a very bright side to this whole thing, but go ahead. All right, I think we're done. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I think I speak for everybody in the room to say that was absolutely fascinating. Some examples of how Dominion Payroll is currently using AI. We have a chatbot that our sales reps are hopefully using to answer questions while they're on demos, particularly new reps, right? Can hop on there, ask a question, get the answer really quickly. Also training operations team members. They touched on, John and Cords touched on this, but we upload all our internal documents into a chatbot. And when we're training new employees, they're not searching just for general answers. They're getting content that was only produced by Dominion Payroll. So it really expedites their training process. And thank you all so much. That was absolutely, I learned so much personally, and it's just so fascinating. I just want to thank you all for coming. So much time and effort comes just for coming to an event. So hopefully you got a lot out of it. Thank you to the Tampa Club. Thank you to Denny. And then most of all, I just wanted to point out the human element, right? I think John and Cords did a great job highlighting how important people are in the process, even with all these tools. And you can't point that out more than Emily Jenkins, our marketing director, for putting all this together, and her team, of course. But it really starts with people, and this whole thing started with her and started with Denny. So thank you all very much, and hope you all have a great rest of the day. Enjoy the beautiful weather today. Thank you.